Lyra, how's it going?
Hi, Walker. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, but I have been getting a lot of questions from our Starbase explorers. I've got one I think that might be right up your alley, something that you might be able to answer for us.
All right, let's see what you got.
All right, so someone asked, how can solar storms affect us on Earth?
Well, that's a very good question, Skywalker. Well, let's see. First, we have to define what is a solar storm, okay? So they are a variety of eruptions of mass and energy from the solar surfaces, all right? And there's four kinds, four. There's the flares, okay? There's the prominences, sunspots, and Corona mass injections, which they say CME for short. Okay, these are the common signals of solar activity.
Are they dangerous to us, or could they be dangerous to our planet?
Well, you know what? They cannot harm our human bodies as long as we remain on the surface of Earth, where we're protected by the Earth's atmosphere and magnetosphere protects us. Okay, remember, this has been happening for billions of years since the Earth and Sun came to be.
Oh, okay. So yeah, nothing new. Well, what about in space? Can it affect anything in space?
Well, yes. Space, that is a different story, okay? CME, which is the Corona mass eruptions, can cause radiation poisoning to humans. Okay? They would be in danger to unshielded astronauts. Say they're astronauts traveling to the moon. Okay, so large doses of these can be very fatal.
Oh, wow. So yeah, so the Earth really, our magnetosphere and stuff does protect us really well then. Could it affect our technology at all? Because I've heard something about that different solar activity can affect something to do with our technology that we use.
Oh, yes, it does, Skywalker. When CME strikes the Earth's atmosphere, it causes temporary disturbance of the Earth's magnetic field. The storm on the sun causes a type of storm on Earth also, known as geomagnetic storm. The charged particles can slam into our atmosphere. All right, it can disrupt satellites in orbit, the airplanes with radiation, disrupt telecommunication and navigation systems. Well, we use lots of GPS on our cell phones. They're going to be erupted also. Have the potential to affect power grid and have known to black out entire cities, even entire regions.
Wow, that sounds really powerful. Well, so I bet then we could have some of our Starbase trainees do some research on maybe what the two biggest geomagnetic storms that Earth has ever experienced were and how it was affected. So just a hint, there were two big ones, so maybe they could get out there and actually check that out.
That'd be great. I think they'll have lots of fun, doing the research and finding out what really happened. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering the question, Lyra.
All right, so you're welcome. Hey, hi, Skywalker. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good.
All right, well, you know what? I have another question. All right, one of our Starbase trainees send us this question. Does recycling our plastics help the planet? Because you know what? I think he heard about how much our recycling goes into the dump. I mean, has anything changed?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, especially just now in the last few years, because it has changed quite a bit. And recycling as an idea is a really great one, but there's been so many major changes that we're starting to look at how we do it now, recycling, and how we'll need to do it in the future. In the past, China was responsible for buying as much as 70% of the world's waste plastics because they have a huge demand for materials to make new products. But a big change happened in 2018 when China passed a new law called the National Sword Law, requiring plastics it buys from other countries to be 99.5% pure, right? Which is a very, very high level of purity. And this was because a lot of the plastic was contaminated with stuff that made it difficult for them and expensive for them to be able to recycle it or to process it to use the material. Right? So things like paper, food waste, plastic wrap, stuff that kind of gets all tangled and mixed into all of our garbage and recycling, were causing huge problems for recyclers over there to sort, but also in America, because our plastics are collected in what we call a single stream, right? Where we put all of our recycling into one bin and it gets sorted later on at different types of processing facilities. A lot of times they have to do it by hand, which takes a long time, as you can imagine, right? And it doesn't really sort well enough or to the degree of that 99.5% to meet the new requirements, right? So they can't actually, at least at this time, we aren't set up to sort things that specifically. So as a result, China now imports less than 1% of our waste material. So that leaves us with a huge amount of all these.
Wow. So what are we supposed to do now with all this junk?
Yeah, well, that's the bigger question now, right? Well,
Yeah.
It's definitely a complicated problem that just doesn't have one answer. But as with many problems in our modern world, we can look to technology and innovation to try to help out. Right? There's a company called AMP that's been developing robotic technologies that can both speed up the sorting of our recyclables and make it more effective.
Oh, I like it.
So they started to use robotic technology along with AI, which we talked about at STARBASE in a different point, artificial intelligence, right? To train the robot sensors to identify different types of material and to sort them very fast. So this can increase the quality of our recycling to better meet these new standards, right, that these countries are looking for to buy the materials. So that's a big benefit or a big help. But one of the best ways we can each help to actually help out this whole recycling thing is to remember those first two R's in our recycling triangle. You remember them? Well, I'll remind you, they're reduce and reuse. The more we can reduce waste plastics, especially, is just to do simple things that we could do every day, like use a reusable water bottle instead of a disposable one. And when we do use plastics, to reuse them or upcycle them into new things that we can use for other purposes, right? Here at STARBASE, I think you've seen too, we've explored projects like turning old plastic containers into bird feeders or even into art. And this is where our explorers, I think, can really help by using our brains to imagine new ways to use things that we might otherwise just throw away into the landfill, and that it takes thousands of years for those things to break down back into nature. Okay? Another great way too is to check your town's website for information about what recycling rules are in your area to make sure that you do what you do actually matters, right? And the things that we put in those bins actually get recycled.
Yes, that is so true. I use a lot of the bottles to do arts and crafts with them.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and I think every day there's different ways our explorers could find different ways to reuse things and reduce the types of things that they use as well.
Yes, I think so. Yes, and it's very interesting how now, as this pandemic is out there, how people are being very creative and they're using also lots of bottles and recycled materials to just do arts and crafts.
Yeah, awesome. Just to create all kinds of new things. That's great.
Oh, thank you very much, Skywalker.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope that answered his question.
Yeah, I hope so too. So if any of you guys explorers want to submit any of your questions, go to ask@starbase-cp.com.